Yeah. Okay.
I think you need to touch the mic. You're gonna leave the mic there?
Okay, good evening, Rabotai. We have a tremendous share tonight, and I'm hoping with Siyata D'Shmaya they'll be zochet to be able to give it over properly. Borei Olam should give the proper words. I'd like to start with a beracha Kedarkenu B'Kodesh. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Sha'akol Nehiyah B'Dvaro. Okay. So on Tuesday night, we hit on this incredible topic. And I'm going to tell you, from Tuesday night to Thursday, I've been getting emails off the charts asking for many of the Mar Mekomot that were put out on Tuesday night's very powerful class. I mentioned very clearly on that night that the reason why I went with that share was because I was in the middle of moving. I have no svar. Everything's in boxes. Mamash and galut. And because of that, it was a share that I had to give verbatim, mostly even from memory, just to be able to continue the growth of what we've been doing the last few weeks. But tonight, Baruch Hashem, we opened some of those boxes, and I was able to come back with many of the Mar Mekomot, because believe it or not, tonight's shiur is very well connected to Tuesday night shiur in a very mushlamdik way. And what I mean by that is, even if you didn't hear Tuesday night's class, this class is still incredible. But at the same time, if you did hear Tuesday night's class, then this class is something out of this world. Because they literally go hand in hand. So Rabotai, open your hearts. Tuesday night, we wanted to demonstrate from a story that Torah told us in this coming week's parasha, a story that was always extremely hard and difficult and sad to digest every time this parasha comes around. The story of what happened to Dinah in Shechem. And sure enough, after Tuesday night share, we realized that this wasn't just the story that we were told as kids, not even close. This wasn't a situation of a Bat Yisrael that decided to go out and take a little walk and check out the neighborhood. Not even close. But rather, this was Dinah, Bat Yisrael, on a reconnaissance mission with a tremendous direction, with tremendous insight. The incredible powerhouse that she was, to the extent that she was able to be Vatetse Dinah, Ki Ima Bita. She's the daughter of Leah. They know how to go out and chap nishamot and bring them back to Klal Yisrael. And we spent an extensive time Tuesday night showing an amazing story behind the story that we thought we once knew. On that mission that Dinah was after saving in the Shama from the great rabbis to be, Rabbi Hanina ben Tradion. I know Tuesday night I kept referring to him as Rabbi Hanania ben Tradion, and that's because many of the Svarim do refer to this, one of the Asara Harugei Malchut, as Rabbi Hanania ben Tradion. Many of the Svarim. But then looking up many of the Gemarot today, now that I have my Svarim back, I got my books back. So now looking up many of the Gemara refers to him as Rabbi Hanina ben Tradion. So tonight we'll go with that particular name, but in truth, the same person. Rabbi Hanina ben Tradion, his neshama was trapped in the embodiment of Shechem ben Chamor. And Dinah knew that. And she went to save him and to pull him back to the Jewish people. That was Tuesday night's class. But there's one thing we did not say, and that is, why? Why was she so after the neshama of Rabbi Hanina ben Tradion? What does it have to do with this week's parasha per se? And number 3, get ready for this. Is there a connection between the way the Torah puts together the two stories? Where the Torah opens up with the first story of Yaakov meeting Esav, and then puts immediately together with the story of Dinah and what happened to her in Shechem. Is there a connection between these two ma'asiyot that Torah kind of juxtapose them together in the same parasha, in Parashat Vayishlach? Tonight we're going to find out wonders behind the why. Tuesday night we said the what. That's what happened. But we didn't say why. Tonight I want to hit on the why. And for this, we're starting a new shir. So for the guys that weren't here Tuesday night, no problems. We're starting fresh. The guys that were here Tuesday night, you'll be able to connect the dots together once we already hit on the big points. And for the guys that didn't hear Tuesday night's class, I advise you that when you get home tonight, when you're done this one, hear it. It's already on iTorah. It's already there for your listening. Run after it. Here we go, gentlemen. Vayira Yaakov. Vayira Yaakov me'od. Yaakov was very scared. Vayetzer lo. He trembled. He was in such fear. What was Yaakov Avinu scared of? Well, Esav was coming with 400 men. Yaakov began to daven, to pray to Hashem. And Yaakov was scared. He was worried. He's going to go to war. So he splits the people amongst them into two. He splits them into two camps. And here is a very simple strategy. One camp will fight while the other flees. This will ensure that someone from the camp of Yaakov will live. And like this, the future of the Jewish people is jeopardized. At least on face value, that's the simple pshat of the pasuk. Yaakov was scared, and mentions in the pasuk the word that he feared and scared 2 times. Vayira, vayetzer. And sure enough, he splits the camp. One fights, and the other will run away. Says Rashi, an amazing Rashi. And get this Rashi well, because tonight's share is on this Rashi. It's a famous Rashi. And the Vart, I might say tonight, you might have heard of already. But the way we're going to tie this in is something off the charts. And by the way, I do want to say in the get-go that many of the Mar Mekomot from tonight's share that I'm tying into our class of Tuesday night came from a share by my very good friend, Yedid Nafshi, Rabbi Gladstein, from Cedarhurst, New York. Shem Shel Blessing, Arichut Yamim Mishanim. Anyone who did not yet buy his new book, he just put out on the life of Meir Balanes, which is going to be a lot about tonight's share. You'll see why after you hear tonight's class, you must buy this book. Amazing, amazing sefer that he put out on the life of Rabbi Meir. Okay, so here we go. So I want to touch upon and use many of the Mar Mekomot that Rabbi Gladstein share to bring out tonight's class and how we tie this into Tuesday night. Here we go. Says Rashi, why does the pasuk say 2 different words that mean the same thing? Vayira, vayetzer. You already told me that Yaakov was scared. You have to tell me again that he was scared? Says Rashi, Yaakov was actually scared of two things. Vayira, says Rashi, Shema Yehareg. He was scared that he might get killed. And if that's the case, what's going to be with Klal Yisrael? Vayetzer lo, he was also scared of something else. Im Yaharog hu et aherim. He might kill others. So he's scared he might get killed. And he's also scared that he may end up killing others as well. And who are we referring to that he was scared he might kill? His own brother, Esav. And because of that, the Pasuk says two words describing how scared he was. Scared of two things. I might get killed. I might kill him. Who was him? Esav. And that's the case. Right away. Asks all the Mefarshim, the Gur Aryeh, they all ask, why are we referring to Esav so ambiguous, so vague? Aherim? No, Rashi, tell us straight up who it is that he was. Tell us. He's scared that he might get killed. And he's scared that he might end up killing Esav. And yet Rashi says such a vague word, aherim. He might kill others. We know who's it referring to. What's pshat? So what's interesting is that there is a Mizrahi over here, and he says, I'll be honest, the whole thing is very difficult to understand. Why was Yaakov scared in the first place? You know, there's a halacha that says, if somebody comes to kill you, you are allowed, out of self-defense, to jump up and kill him first. Haba lehorgecha, hashkem lehorgo. Somebody comes to try, God forbid, to kill you. You are required, you're obligated to get up, defend yourself, even if it means to kill him, to stop him from killing you, you're allowed. And if that's it, why Yaakov? Why are you scared? If Esav is coming to kill you, by law, halacha, you are allowed to go and kill him. So what is he so scared about? Rabotai, the simple answers that they always give to this, one answer they want to say is, Yaakov knew that Yitzchak loved Esav so much that if he kills Esav, Yaakov might get upset. You killed my favorite son. And that might come with ramifications. In spite of the fact that he's a Rasha. But you don't, God forbid, want to upset the Gadol Hador. Who knows what might come out of the mouth of a tzaddik, and you're playing with fire. Another famous answer they want to give to this type of an idea, and that is that everyone knows the nevuah that his mother Rivka Imenu had. Rivka Imenu says very clearly in last week's parasha, Lama eshkal gam shenechem biyom echad. Says Rashi, she was being nabeh, she was prophesizing. She was prophesizing, telling her son, get out of town. Esav is coming to kill you. And as he's coming to kill you, you might rise up to kill him. And you might kill each other. And both will die on the same day. Says Rashi, little did she know, or maybe she did know, that she was prophesizing that the two of them will end up dying on the same day. Yaakov and Esav was destined to pass away both on the same day. And later on, as we know the story, Yaakov, by the entrance of Ma'arat HaMachpelah, held up by Esav, Hushin ben Dan comes along, and what does he do? He knocks off the head of Esav. And at that point, Esav and Yaakov are buried on the same day. Amazing. Thank you so much. Esav and Yaakov are buried on the same day. So Yaakov is scared. If I end up killing him, and the prophecy says that we end up dying on the same day, it's going to come right back to me. And therefore, Vayira, Vayetzer. If I kill him, we're both doomed. If he kills me, we're both doomed. Catch 22. And because of that, He was worried, says Rabbi Shua Leib Diskin, that because of the prophecy of his mother, Vayira Vayetzer, we both might die on the same day. Wow, what a pshat. But Rabotai, that's not the pshat I came here tonight to tell you. Although these are beautiful pshatim. I'm going in a very different line, a very Rabbi Gladstein style line of pshat, because I know after he put out that book on the life of the great Rabbi Meir, this is something you need to hear. Listen to this amazing concept. So let me tell you a story about Nero Kesar. The Gemara in Gitin, Daf Nun Vav Amud Aleph, tells us that there was a Roman general by the name of Nero Kesar. He was dispatched to be the one to go destroy Bet HaMikdash. But he was a goy, but he was a religious goy. And he believed in God. And on his way to Jerusalem to destroy Bet HaMikdash, Nero Kesar, he takes his bow and arrow, as we all know the famous story, and he shoots an arrow to one direction. And then midair, the arrow turns and flies towards Jerusalem. He shoots the arrow towards an opposite direction. Yet again, midair, it turns towards Jerusalem. He shoots it upwards. The arrow goes up and then flies towards Jerusalem. He realizes that all arrows are pointing towards Jerusalem. To him, that was a sign that Hashem was showing him that God is with him. Hashem wants him to destroy the Bet HaMikdash. So Nero Kesar was about to go and do the deed, and he said, you know what, let me check this one more time. In the olden days, in the times of the Bet HaMikdash, there was this very interesting heebie-jeebie-like type of a test that they used to do to check and see if God was on their side. They would walk up to a young boy, and by the way, says the Midrash that Haman also did this. He walked up to the young boys coming out of yeshiva, and he would ask the boy, tell me, what pasuk did you learn today in yeshiva? And whatever pasuk the kid tells him was meant for him to hear as a message from God. This happened in the story of Purim, and this happened here, says the Gemara in Gitin. Nero walks up to a young yeshiva boy coming out of yeshiva, and he asks him, what pasuk did you learn today in yeshiva? And the boy tells him the pasuk. Hashem is going to use Edom to strike against his house, to destroy the Bet HaMikdash. And then Hashem is going to turn around and wipe his hands with Edom. Nero says, what? You mean God's using me just for his dirty work? He's using me as the stick to go destroy Bet HaMikdash, and then he's going to turn around and destroy me? Oh no. Oh no. I'm not a part of this. The general of the Roman army, Nero Kesar, runs off, abandons his army, never to be seen again. Says the Gemara, the inside story, when he ran off, he went and he converted to Judaism. He became a ger tzedek. He became a proper ger, a convert, converted to Judaism. And then the Gemara says, listen to these words. I'm going to read you the words. The Gemara says, Arak, he disappeared. Azal, he went. V'itgayer, and he converted to Judaism. V'nafak mineh, and you know who came out of Nero Kesar? Rabbi Meir. From this Roman general that converted to Judaism, his great-great-grandson was none other than Reb Meir Balanes. You believe that? Unbelievable. But you know what that means? That means that Rabbi Meir came from a convert. That means Rabbi Meir came from Esav. Reb Meir Balanes. Elahad Meir Aneni. He came from Esav. There's another story I need to tell you about Reb Meir. Another amazing story. This story goes to another Gemara. This is Gemara in Horiot, Daf Yud Gimel. The Gemara tells us that at that time, the Reish Galuta was none other than Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel's son. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. He took over his father's position as the Rosh HaYeshiva at that time. And Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, in the yeshiva with him, was Reb Natan and Reb Meir. Now, gentlemen, listen to me. Reb Natan and Reb Meir were much greater rabbis than Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. They knew a lot more than he did. They were much greater giants in Torah than he. And every time Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, the Rosh Yeshiva, would walk into yeshiva, everyone would stand up. Every time Reb Meir would walk into yeshiva, everyone would stand up. Every time Reb Natan would walk into the yeshiva, everyone would stand up. Because these were the three greatest rabbis. But they were giving the vice rabbis as much honor as the head rabbi. Even though, in Reb Shimon ben Gamliel's eyes, he says, that's not right. I'm the Rosh Yeshiva. They should stand up for me. The other rabbis are only Sgan. They're only vice president. Shema Yisrael, I don't even want to mention that these days. Borei Olam, save us. But B'kitzur, they're Havdil, Elef Alfei Avdalot a million times. But Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said, they're standing up for me, they're standing up for the other rabbis. It's not apparent who's the Rosh. So he made a decree that the only rabbi you get up for is the Rosh HaYeshiva. The other rabbis, you do a shuffle. No, you make like a little gesture. You don't stand, right, like that, exactly. That, by the way, this is where it came from. You ever see people, that's where it came from. Originally they used to stand up, milo koma, full stand, full straight stand. But now, only the Rosh Yeshiva gets the full stance. The Sgan rabbis, they only get that little gesture. The next day, says the Gemara, Reb Meir comes walking into the yeshiva. No one gets up for him. He sees these little gestures. He sees these little head waves. But no one's standing up. Reb Natan walks into yeshiva. He sees the shuffle. But no one's getting up. He said, Makara, what happened here? So they tell him that the Rosh Yeshiva made a gezerah while you guys were gone, while you rabbis were gone. And he is the only one that we are to stand, full standing, milo koma. Reb Meir of Natan says, what? That's the rule he made? He says, yes, that's what he made. So Reb Meir Natan says, okay. So if he's the Rosh, then he has to prove to everyone that he is deserving of the Rosh. Tomorrow, we're going to turn to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, and we're going to ask him to get up and give a shiur on one of the Masechtot in Shas that nobody knows. There's a Masechet called Uksin. Uksin, good luck, is a Masechet that talks about the stems of fruit in relation to Tumah v'Tahara. Oh boy. Good luck. You guys going to Daf Yomi Eruvin, you thought you're having a tough time? I know you just finished, but you thought you had a tough time? You didn't get to Uksin yet. They said, tomorrow, when Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel comes into yeshiva, we're going to say, Rabbi, the boys want to hear a shir on Uksin. And he's going to get up and he's going to be humming. He doesn't know Uksin. And then we'll see if he's ra'ui for the gezerah that he made. Oh boy. Oh yeah. Oh boy. Says the Gemara, what happened? Listen to this, guys. There was a rabbi in the yeshiva. His name was Rabbi Yaakov ben Karshi. Says the Gemara in Hodiot, this rabbi, Rabbi Yaakov ben Karshi, overheard the plan of Reb Meir and Reb Natan. And he said to himself, if this goes down tomorrow, yes, Reb Meir, Reb Natan will prove a point. But Reb Shimon ben Gamliel is going to get such a terrible embarrassment. It's not kedai for him, and not kedai for Bet Aviv. Remember, they came from David HaMelech. They were royalty. You have to be very careful. They were mamash like the kings of the Jews in Galut. That's why they call them Resh Galuta. I can't let that happen. I got to save him from this embarrassment. But at the same time, I can't sell out Reb Meir of Natan. So what did he do? That night, Rabbi Yaakov ben Karshi sat in the Bet Midrash and he was learning out loud Masechet Uksin. But he went it over again and again and again and again. And who comes walking by? Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. And he's hearing that this rabbi is learning this offbeat Masechet, meaning what they weren't learning in the yeshiva. I don't mean, God forbid, it's offbeat Masechet. What I mean is it wasn't what they were learning. He was learning something completely, and he's listening. He says, wow, this Masechet sounds interesting. I never learned Uksin before, said Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. He listens and he listens. He walks up to Rabbi Yaakov and he says, why are you learning Uksin? He says, because you have to know Uksin. So the rabbi says, well, if it was meant for me to hear, it was meant for me to learn. And if that's the case, I want to learn it with you. All night, they spent learning Uksin, cover to cover. The next day, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel comes to the Bet Midrash. Everyone stands up. In walks Reb Meir. Everyone does the shuffle. And Reb Meir turns to Reb Shimon ben Gamliel and he says to him in front of the whole yeshiva, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, the yeshiva would really like to hear a shir. Reb Shimon says, okay, what do they want to hear? Give him a shir on Uksin. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says, Uksin? No problem. He gets up and he gives the shir, fire and brimstone. He gives the fireworks on Uksin. And the place was blown away. And Reb Meir looks at Reb Natan. When did this happen? And at that moment, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel caught what just happened. He realized min hashamayim that they just saved him. He realized that Reb Natan and Reb Meir had a plan. And this was supposed to be a wipeout. And instead, in the middle of the night, Shamayim saved him through Rav Yaakov ben Karshi, and all night he spent, and if not, it would have been the biggest busha in the world. Once Rav Shimon ben Gamliel realized what went down, he turned to Reb Meir, Reb Natan, and said, you were up to this? You put me up to this? You wanted to dethrone me in a certain way? And because of that, you tried to depose me the way they deposed my father. I don't know if you know that famous Gemara, Reb Gamliel and Ben Achot, how they brought Reb Gamliel down and put up Reb Lazar ben Azariah for 2 days. We read about this in the Haggadah as well. Hare ani keben shevim shana. That story, like father. Tuesday night we learned the class like mother, like daughter. Tonight's class is like father, like son. The way they tried to depose the father, they tried to bring down Reb Gamliel. Because what he did to Rabbi Yoshua, he left him standing. So too, now they tried to depose Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, because he made everyone stand for him and not for Reb Meir and Reb Natan. So he turns now, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, and he says, you made this plan to depose me? Out. Get out. He threw Reb Meir and Reb Natan out of yeshiva. And my message to all those guys that were thrown out of yeshivas over the years, you're in good company. Don't give up on yourself. Reb Meir was also thrown out of yeshiva, and he became Gadol Ador. Reb Natan was also thrown out of yeshiva, and he became Gadol Ador. So Reb Meir and Natan was thrown out of yeshiva, and where did they sit? The Gemara tells us they weren't allowed in the Bet Midrash, so they sat right outside the window. But gentlemen, listen to this. Reb Meir and Reb Natan were the biggest rabbis in the yeshiva. And then the next day, the yeshiva is learning, and they have a lot of questions. And Reb Shimon Gamliel didn't have the answers. So they need the answers. So they wrote down their questions on paper, and then they threw it out the window. This is the first time that we had passing notes in class. They threw it out the window. Reb Meir, who's outside on this side, caught the paper, opened up the paper, read the question, wrote back the answer, and threw the paper back in through the window. It's a Gemara. I'm not making, this is not the Ben Shushan style of storytelling. I am telling you, this is what the Gemara says. The Gemara says they threw it through the window, he read the question, and threw back the answer. Amazing. Till it came to a point where Rabbi Yossi turns to Reb Shimon Gamliel and says, this is ridiculous. We want to learn. We need the answers. Every time we have a question, we have to throw it out the window. Come on. So Reb Shimon Gamliel says, okay, all right, I'll let them back in. But in order to make sure that this never happens again, I'm going to demote them in a certain way. Where from now on, I am gozer, that no longer can you call Reb Meir by name. From now on, you are to refer to Reb Meir in a vague third-person title. Acherim. From now on, Reb Meir is going to be called Acherim. Someone else. Acherim Amar. Somebody else said, Ki'ilu third person, Ki'ilu Stam, someone who's not that important, Chas v'shalom, of course. But that was the intonation. Someone not as important. Ahirim, like Yesh Omrim. Yeah, Ahirim, it's like somebody said. Without giving him credit, without giving him the honor of where the Torah is coming from as a punishment. Reb Meir was nicknamed Ahirim. Amazing. And if this is the case, Rabotai, I think we start to appreciate now a new Rashi on the most amazing answer that you'll ever hear. Says Rashi, and this is a pshat that's brought in the Pardes Yosef, and this is brought in Ma'ayana Shel Torah. The Klosenberger Rebbe, when he brought this pshat, he said it as Ha'olam Mefarshim, meaning this pshat is so well known that he already is saying that the Welt already says this pshat. The whole world knows this pshat. What's this amazing pshat that everybody knows? And that is, says Rashi, Yaakov Avinu, Vayira Vayetzer. What was Yaakov scared? Vayira Shema Yahareg. He was scared maybe he might get killed. Vayetzer Shema Hu Yareg Aherim. He might kill Aherim. Because if you kill Esav, then you end up killing Reb Meir, who is nicknamed Aherim. And that's the pshat. Says Rashi, Yaakov was so scared. He says, Mamanavshach, if Esav kills me, where's it going to be a Klal Yisrael coming from? And if I kill Esav, then where is Aherim going to come from? Where are we going to get Reb Meir Balanes and Klal Yisrael? How am I going to possibly avoid Has v'Shalom, a Klal Yisrael without Reb Meir? I'm so worried if I kill Esav. The wording of Rashi, Im Yaharog Hu et Aherim. By killing who? By killing Esav, I'm going to end up killing Aherim. I'm going to end up killing Reb Meir. Klal Yisrael desperately needs Reb Meir Balanes. What a pshat. Unbelievable. This is such a powerful pshat. I just want to tell you on the aside. The Munkacher Rebbe, and I give Rabbi Gladstein all the credit for this. The Munkacher Rebbe, he says something fantastic. There's a famous pasuk in Mishleh. The pasuk in Mishleh, the pasuk says, Da'aga belev ish. When there is worry in a man's heart, when a person is worried, da'aga belev ish, when there's worry in a man's heart, yisihenu or yisihena le'aherim. Tell it over to someone else. And this is a big yesod, by the way. A big concept that when you have things bottled up inside that's bothering you, get it out. Get it out. Therapists make a living on this pasuk. It's all about being able to open up people to get out the pain, the worry, the anxiety, because you'll feel better if you get it off your chest. This is a tremendous concept. This is something that people should know. It's a pasuk in Mishlei. Again, what's the pasuk? Da'aga belev ish. A person has worry in the heart, in his heart. Yisichena la'aherim. Go say it over to others. Get it off your chest. Get it out. You'll feel better. Comes the Munkatcher and says a genius pshat. Da'aga belev ish. You know, many times people have problems in life. They lost something. What's the famous segula? They take a few dollars, they put it into the pushka Meir balanes, and they say, Elaha de Meir aneni, Elaha de Meir aneni, please let me find this item. Or someone might have problems in life, troubles in life. He puts a few dollars or Meir balanes, or he lights a candle, Lilu nishma Meir balanes, and he says 3 times, Elaha de Meir aneni, Elaha de Meir aneni, and amazing things happen in the Zechut Meir. People have seen so many Yeshuot. People have been unbelievably answered in the Zechut Reb Meir on their troubles and their problems. Says the Munkatcher, Da'aga belev ish. When man has troubles and problems in his heart, Yisichena le'aherim. Tell it to aherim. Who's aherim? Reb Meir. Tell Reb Meir about it. Go put a few dollars in the pushka, Reb Meir balanes. Go light a candle and cry out, Elaha de Meir aneni. Help me with my problems. Help me with my issues. Tell it to aherim and you'll get results. That Munkacha is $1 million. Huh? What a pshat. What a magnificent pshat. But this is the point. The point is Reb Meir was nicknamed Aherim. And because of that, Yaakov Avinu was so scared. If I kill Esav, I might end up killing Reb Meir. I might end up killing Aherim. I can't do that. What's Klal Yisrael going to be without Reb Meir balanes? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So Rabotai, what is Klal Yisrael without Reb Meir balanes? You're going to find out tonight how vital, how pivotal, how integral Reb Meir balanes is, was, and will be to Klal Yisrael ad bi'at hagoel. Listen to this. This is amazing. We have a famous Gemara in Kiddushin. The Gemara tells us on Daf Lamed Vav a machloket that is a little bit unique. Not in the way of the machloket, but who we paskin like. There's a machloket over there on the pasuk. Banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem. The Jewish people, Banim atem, you are God's sons. You are God's children. Banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem. You are Hashem's children. Says Rabbi Yehuda, when is it that the Jewish people are considered God's children? Says Rabbi Yehuda, Bizman she'atem nohagim minhag banim. When you act like a son, you're considered like a son. When you listen to God, when you go on the way of Hashem, you're keeping Torah mitzvot, you're keeping Shabbat, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing as a good Jew. When you act like God's son, you are credited as the children of God. But if you don't act like God's son, you leave God, you leave Torah, you leave mitzvot, then says Rabbi Yehuda, you're no longer God's son. Then you're just considered like the avadim of God. But a son, for that you need to act like one. Comes Reb Meir. And Reb Meir argues. And Reb Meir says, not true. A son will be a son, will be a son, period. A Jew is a Jew, and a son is a son. And by the way, Rabotai, anyone who has a son will tell you, no matter what, my son is my son. And I will be there for him, and I will bail him out. Sometimes we meet people, lo aleinu lo alechem, we should never know from it, but people that really their kids are giving them a run for their money, and then some. And then some. And there are professionals out there that are screaming to the dad, stop bailing him out! Stop that! And he says, what do you want from me? It's my son. It's my son. No, but you got to teach him a lesson. I understand. I get that. But he's my son. You know how many times I heard that? I wasn't the guy telling or answering. I was just listening. I don't want anyone to think... No, but I've heard professionals, therapists, and you're enabling him. You're an enabler. Yeah, could be. The father said, could be. You might be right. He's my son. I shouldn't bail him out. I can't sleep nights. He's my son. Says Reb Meir, if that's the way a human father can feel about a human son, what about a godly father? Banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem. No matter what you do, no matter how low a Jew falls, you never stop being God's son. You will always be Hashem's son. In the words of Reb Meir, Banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem, ben kach uben kach banim atem. No matter what, you always remain Hashem's son. And Reb Meir brings different psukim. The psukim over there in the Gemara is pretty amazing. The psukim over there talk about banim mashchitim. Mashchitim means destroys, but they're still called banim. Banim sichlim, banim lo uman bam. They have no faith. Foolish sons, destructive sons, but yet the pasuk still calls them sons. Bnei kel chai, they'll always be my sons, says God. This is the shita of Reb Meir. Ben kach uben kach banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem. And I want to tell you something interesting. Most of the time, 98% of the time in Shas, when you have a machloket, Reb Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, the halacha is always like Rabbi Yehuda, except for here. This is one of the only times. There is one more time by Megillah, but that's not for now. There's one of the only times that we paskin halacha like Reb Meir. Not because Reb Meir wasn't big enough, just the opposite. Because Reb Meir says the Gemara in Eruvin, he was too big. He was so giant, Reb Meir. He was so heads and shoulders above all the other rabbis that he was too big. They couldn't understand him. He was over their heads. So therefore they couldn't paskin like him because he was way too big of a giant. But this is one of the places, one of the only places that we paskin like Reb Meir, banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem, ben kach uben kach banim atem. And there are many reasons why. Some say because he brought psukim. Chamovadia wants to say the reason why is because this shita he took from his Rebbe, Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva also paskins, banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem, ben kach uben kach, no matter what you do, you're still a son. So this is what he took from his Rebbe, and we know that we always paskin like Rabbi Akiva, right? Halachak Rabbi Akiva mechaverav, we know that. Another very interesting shot that they bring, and that is that generally, most of the time, 99% of the time, when Reb Meir is mentioned anywhere in Shas and Mishnayot, his name is always mentioned first, and then the opposing rabbi is mentioned second. This is one of the only Gemarot in Shas, in Kiddushin, right here, in Lamed Vav, that Rabbi Yehuda is mentioned first, and Reb Meir is mentioned second, to show you that in this place, Reb Meir had the last word. Interesting. Halacha is like Reb Meir. Ben kach uben kach, banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem. Rabotai, what does this mean to us? Why is this sheet of Reb Meir and paskening like him so significant to us? Don't get me wrong. It's huge, just for the fact that you told me that no matter how low a Jew falls, and no matter what a Jew does, he's always going to be considered Hashem's son, and Hashem's always your father, and he's going to always be compassionate, no matter what. That's amazing. That's already everything. But what does it mean to us as a nation? Let me tell you. It means everything to us. What it means is that Reb Meir Shita stands in defense of Klal Yisrael throughout the whole Galut. The Goyim always come to God. Why are they the chosen people? Why are you giving these people so much love? Why are you protecting these people so much? Why do you fancy these Jews? The Goyim, ask God. Why are you into these people? They don't always follow you. They're not always good. They're not always good. Hashem says, you're right. They might not always be perfect. But at the end of the day, you're asking me why I love them? They're my sons. I love them because they're my sons. Could you imagine a kid comes up to you in the store and he says, how come you're buying your son that toy and you're not buying me the toy? I say, kid, go drive your mother crazy. What do you want from me? Who? But what do you mean? I'm nicer than he is. I get higher grades in school than he does. I have better midot than he does. You might get high grades than him. You might have better midot than him. But he's my son. That's why I'm buying him the toy. I don't know you. So go drive your own mother crazy. What do you want from me? That's what Hashem answers the Goyim. The Goyim come with ta'anot to Hashem. Why are you so good to these people? Why are you always defending them? Why are you saving them? Why are you helping them? Why are you compassionate to them? And Hashem says, why? Are you asking me why? What do you mean why? It's my son. That's why Rabbi Meir's Shita is so vital. His Shita is so vital. Because that's the answer that God gives to the Goyim. Banim atem Hashem Elokechem. That answers all the ta'anot to the Mekat Regim. It answers all the ta'anot to the Goyim. It answers everything. You know what else it answered? When Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Shamayim and he wanted to bring down the Torah to Klal Yisrael, you know what the angel said? Hashem, you can't give the Torah away to them first. We get first right of refusal. We have Dina de Bar Mitzvah. Dina de Bar Mitzvah means that if you're putting up your house for sale, you have to give your neighbor the first right to buy that house. And then you can put it on the open market to other people. Says the angels, we're God's neighbors. We're neighbors. And if that's the case, you should give us the first right of refusal of the Torah. Because you got to go to the neighbor first. After us, if we say no, then you can offer it to outsiders. You can give it down to planet Earth, to people. But we come first. We're your neighbor. That's the halacha. God says, you're right. The neighbor comes before outsiders. But there's one person that comes even before the neighbor. And that is your son. Klal Yisrael's banim atem Hashem Elokechem. Thanks to Reb Meir, we got the Torah. Think about that. If we would have paskin like Rabbi Yehuda, we've been in trouble. 1 second. You're not banim. We have to see how you're acting. Oh, you made an egel? Oh. Return, exchange. That's what the angels would have said. But now that we paskin like Reb Meir, that we are automatically, always, no matter what, no matter how we act, a son is a son is a son, and we're considered banim atem Lashem Elokechem. That's it. It answers all ta'anot on the Jewish people. Reb Meir saved us. Could you imagine a Jewish people without Reb Meir? We wouldn't get the Torah. We wouldn't have made it through Galut. Every time the Goyim scream, Hashem, why are you protecting them? What would he answer? We weren't always good boys. You read in Tanakh how many times Klal Yisrael started to mix with the nations, go off the derech, fall to Avodah Zarah. Why did we endure? Why did Hashem still protect us in spite of the fact that we turned our backs on Him? Because that's what a father does for a son. That's Reb Meir Shita. Banim atem Lashem Elokechem. Amazing. And you got to hear this, gentlemen. At the end of time, when Mashiach is about to come, Bikarov Mamash, and he's about to reveal himself to Klal Yisrael. Mamish Bikarov Ubiyameinu. Who knows? Maybe this Chanukah, maybe this Or Ganuz of the Or Gadol of Chanukah could come out together with the Or Ganuz of Mashiach Tzidkenu. We could be Zochet to Mashiach this Chanukah. It's the 8 days of miracles. We need miracles. Boy, do we need miracles in these days. when Mashiach is about to reveal himself, and Hashem is about to bring the Geula, says the Medrash, the Goyim, the archangels of all the nations come and say, what? You're going to redeem them? You're going to bring them a Geula? You're going to bring Mashiach? You're going to build them a Bet HaMikdash? You're going to rest amongst them? Look at them! Look at them! They're not even close to what they should be. They're going to start finding every Mechal Shabbat guy. They're going to start pointing out every guy who's eating in a place he shouldn't be eating in. They're going to start pointing out midwinter vacations. They're going to start pointing out all the things that we came home and said, Uli, what did I do? And they're going to point it out to God. And they're going to say, these are the people you're going to bring Mashiach. And you know what Hashem's answer is going to be? Banim atem l'Hashem, look, they're my son. And how long could a father stay without his kid? Those were the words that Eliyahu Navi said to Rabbi Yossi in Gemara Berachot, Dav Gimel Amud Aleph. Eliyahu Navi said to Rabbi Yossi when he went into the Churba to daven Mincha, and he said to him, did you hear a voice crying? And he said, yes. What did you hear it say? Oy lahem lebanai shegalu mishulchan avihem. Hashem cries on us every day the way a father cries on a son. Woe is to my sons that they were kicked away or kicked off of the table of their father. They were sent away from their home. They were kicked out of their house. I want them back. Hashem says, I'm going to bring Mashiach because I want my sons back. I want my kids back. How long could a father go without his kids? That's the answer to the bringing of Mashiach. The Meir says that's what God answers the Goyim. You're right, they might not be deserving to be the Geula, but I'm bringing it anyways because they're my sons and I need already to be with them. Whose shita is that? That's what Meir. Hashem is saying over Meir shita. He says, Ben kach u ben kach banim atem l'Hashem Elokeichem, and therefore I got to bring a Geula. Wow, look how much is riding on Meir. You know the Ben Yoyada writes. The Ben Ish Chai, the Ben Yoyada writes that the reason why Meir Balanes was buried standing up, he was buried standing up. You know that? Meir Balanes, yeah. Meir Balanes was buried standing up in a standing formation, and the reason is to demonstrate that he stood up for the honor of Klal Yisrael. So they buried him standing up, zakuf. They buried him straight up, standing up. Not laying down. It's usually not allowed. But over here it was for a very specific honor. And for that it was Kedai. They buried him standing up. Unbelievable. In order to show that he stood up for the honor of the Jewish people. This is incredible. Rabotai, Yaakov Avinu, he was so scared. Shema Yehareg Aherim. I might end up killing Aherim. If I kill Esav, I might end up killing Reb Meir. And if I end up killing Reb Meir, Mashiach, Galut, survival, Klal Yisrael, Hashem's protection, Hashem's hashgacha, Hashem's love, even at the times where we were not doing what we're supposed to be doing. It was only because Reb Meir. Reb Meir Shita, Banim Atem L'Hashem Elokeichem, says Yaakov Avinu, oh boy, Shema Yareg Aherim. If I end up killing Esav, I might end up killing Reb Meir. What's going to be a Klal Yisrael, a Geula, a survival, a Jewish people without Reb Meir? It's because of him that we're considered Banim. Ben kach u ben kach. Amazing. Rabotai, listen to me well. I'm not going to hold you too much longer, but you got to hear the fireworks at the end of this piece. Comes the Ramban in this week's parasha and says, if you ever wanted to study the book of strategy, the way the Jews deal with Goyim and Galut, you study this week's parasha. How Yaakov dealt with Esav. He prepared for war. He prepared presents. He prepared shochad. Shochad is bribery, presents, and he prepared an escape. All the rabbis and generations, they had to deal with the czars, they had to deal with the sultans, they had to deal with the kings, they had to deal with the presidents. They followed Yaakov Avinu's lead of this week's parasha. They always put these three things together. They always had a shochad, a present. They always had tefillah, and they always had an escape. These were the things that they prepared, because says the Ramban, you study this parasha, you study the ins and outs of how Yaakov deals with Esav in all generations, to the extent that the Ramban calls this week's parasha, Parashat Galut. Do you hear that? The Ramban calls Parashat Vayishlach the parasha of Galut. This parasha is going to summarize all the Galut that Klal Yisrael will find themselves in for all future, and how to deal with the Goyim in the process. This is the roadmap, the strategy book. Amazing. And if this is the case, it's just very interesting. Rabbi Chanan Wasserman brings in the name of the Vilna Gaon, he says, take a look at the way Yaakov Avinu set up the families. After he sent all the presents, it says in Pasuk, then when it came down to the final layer, when it came to the people, what did Yaakov do in his family? He put the Bnei Shvachot first, and then after the Shvachot, he put the Bnei Leah, and then after Leah, he put the Bnei Rachel, and then after the Bnei Rachel, he put, Rachel or Dinah, or whoever it was. Says the Gaon, this is Ikveda de Mashiach. The same thing's going to happen when Mashiach comes. Yaakov Avinu was setting up for the times of Mashiach later on. In the front of Klal Yisrael, Mashiach comes, there's going to be the Bnei Shvachot. You know who are going to be leading Klal Yisrael at the time of the coming of Mashiach? The Bnei Shvachot, the Erev Rav. The Erev Rav is going to be in the front, leading, and the Gedolim, the Tzaddikim, are going to be in the back, dormant. The Vilna Gaon says this. He says the leaders of the Jewish people are going to be the non-religious, I don't want to say non-religious, but the leaders of the Jewish people are going to be the Erev Rav, whatever that means. The liberals, the left, those who are not for God. Let's put it that way. I don't want to say, I take back, I did not say non-religious. I meant with the program of God, meaning anti-religious is what I was looking for. That's what I meant. Liberal, that's what I'm saying. The people that are going to be leading in Klal Yisrael are going to be the Bnei Shvachot first. And who's going to be all the way in the back? The most Hashuv. The Tzaddikim, the Gedolim are going to be in the back. They're going to be pushed to the back. Ki'ilu, as if they're not being gores or heard them. The Gaon says this, or Alan Rabbi Chanan brings this. Anyways, in this parasha of Galut, the only way to get out is with Reb Meir. And therefore, in this parasha of Galut, we need to find where you save Reb Meir. Makes a lot of sense. If this is the parasha that talks about all of Galut, and if the way we survive Galut is because of Reb Meir, then Reb Meir has to be found somewhere in this parasha. And not only do we need to find Reb Meir in this parasha of Galut, we need to save Reb Meir in this parasha of Galut. And where do you find him? In this Rashi. No, wait. I'm talking about Reb Meir. Where do we find him? In this Rashi. Shema Yahareg Aherim. Vayira Vayetzer. He was scared that he might kill Aherim, who was the nickname for Reb Meir, because Reb Meir is our key to getting through the Parsha of Galut, getting through the Goyim, getting through Esav, and finally getting to Geula, because Banim Atem Lashem Elokechem. But Rabotai, before I let you go, here's the bomb. We have a big stira in Shas. You see, on one hand, it sounds like that Reb Meir was of the Shita, that no matter how bad a Jew falls to, no matter how low he sinks, he's still Hashem's child. And he's still welcomed back to Hashem. And there's always teshuvah. And a son is always accepted back to his father, no matter what. Ben kach uben kach, banim atem Hashem Elokeichem. If that's the case, we have a major contradiction. There's a very famous Gemara, Masechet Berachot, Daf Yud, that tells us a story. Hane Berione. I remember this Gemara because we spent once a whole Shavuot night here in the shul learning with the guys this piece of Gemara all night, Be'iyun. Beautiful piece of Gemara. Hane Berione. There were these thugs, these mafia guys, Jews, but mafia guys, bad guys, that went in the neighborhood of Reb Meir and they were roughing people up. And sure enough, it came Reb Meir's turn. So they came to bother Reb Meir, and they were bothering Reb Meir constantly. Finally, Reb Meir said, I had enough of these guys. Reb Meir says, I'm going to go now and pray, and they're not going to wake up tomorrow morning. Now, I mean, listen, you don't mess with Reb Meir, you know what I'm saying? Well, what are you messing with the Gadolador? 2 words out of his mouth, poof, and your ashes. I mean, what are you doing? But these guys were mafia guys, and they felt that, they didn't believe, right? Probably they didn't know. So they were bothering Reb Meir. And Reb Meir came to a point. Reb Meir said, that's it, I'm going to pray, and I'm going to knock him off. I'm going to kill him. Just then, his wife, the famous Beruria, comes to her husband Reb Meir and says, you're going to do what? You're going to pray for them to die? Don't pray for them to die. That's not what the Pasuk says. Pasuk says, Yitamu chataim min haaretz. She says, the Pasuk doesn't say, Yitamu chotim. It doesn't say that the sinners should be eradicated. It says, chataim. The sins should be eradicated. Meaning, you should bring him to do teshuvah. But don't kill him. Meir says to his wife, I like the drasha. The Rebbitzin. Oh, I like the drasha. Yitamu chataim velo chotim. Meir says, you're right. He listened to his wife, and instead of praying that they die, he prayed that they should be choser b'tshuva. And says the Gemara, Hadru, they be'emet were choser b'tshuva. The mafia was choser b'tshuva. They went to Israel, they came back with beards and payot. No, I'm joking. They were choser b'tshuva. They're choser b'tshuva. What happened here? Reb Meir, weren't you the opinion? Weren't you the opinion that no matter how bad a Jew is, he's still Hashem's children, and he always has a chance, and we always welcome him back, and we always keep the door open for him. We have this open door policy to any Jew, no matter where they fall to. Why were you praying that they should die when your wife was in essence screaming your own shita? This seems a tremendous stira to Reb Meir. This is a contradiction. In Kiddushin he tells us, ben kach u ben kach, whether you're mafia or not, banim atem Hashem Elokeichem. And here in Berachot he tells us, these guys are bothering me. I'm going to knock him off. Reb Meir, that's not you. That's Rabbi Yehuda's shita. That's not your shita. This is an unbelievable contradiction in the memrot of Reb Meir. Amazing. Says the Sefer Nachlat Dvash, the Sefer Mishbere Yam, all the Sfarim that only Rabbi Gladstein can find, says these amazing Sfarim, a beautiful answer to reconcile this contradiction. In essence, there's no contradiction at all. Originally, Reb Meir started out with the mindset of Rebbe Yehuda. Originally, Reb Meir actually thought and held that you are considered banim to God depending on the way you behave. You behave like a son, you're considered a son. But if you are a bruiser and a mafioso guy and you went off the derech and you left God and you left the people, then you're on your own. You might be an eved, but a son you're not. That Reb Meir held originally like Reb Yehuda. And then one day in the life of Reb Meir, things changed drastically, thanks to his wife.
So the Josh is really his wife?
They're correct.
Wow.
Correct. His wife came along, and his wife changed the mind of Reb Meir and said, Reb Meir, wait 1 second. There's a pasuk that says, Yitamu chataim min haaretz. It doesn't say chotaim. It says chataim. It says eradicate the sins, not the sinners. So what do you mean you're going to knock these guys off? What do you mean they have no chance? What do you mean? Daven, they should do teshuvah. Like this you'll save them because they're still a Jew. They're still Hashem's children. Banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem. Meir says, wow, that's a beautiful dirasha. From the pasuk, from the diuk, I see you're right. Hashem doesn't want to get rid of the sinner. He wants to get rid of the sin. If that's the case, let me try this. Meir goes with his koyach hatefillah, and instead of davening for them to die, he prays for them to be chozer b'tshuva, and it works. It works. It works. Couldn't believe it. It works. Meir that day changed his shita, and from that day on, thanks to Beruria, his wife, she changed the mind of the Gadol Hador, and he was chozer b'dvarav. And from that day on, he began to argue on Rabbi Yehuda and say, no. Banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem. Benkach u benkach. Believe me, Rabbi Yehuda, I have experience. I learned this from my wife. Shma bikola. I heard this from her and she's right. Banim sichlim. Banim lo uman bam. But nonetheless, Banaihem. Banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem. Banim mashchitim. These mafioso guys were mashchitim. But the Torah still calls them banim. And therefore, I learned from my wife, Beruria, benkach u benkach banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem. Wow. Rabotai, if this is the case, I want to hit you with something huge. If that's the case, if you're saving Reb Meir because of his shita of banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem, that it's not enough to just save Reb Meir. You need to save Beruria, who changed his mind to start to hold banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem. So when Yaakov Avinu comes along, Vayira, Vayetzer, and Yaakov says, Oy vey, if I kill Esav, Shema Yahareg Aherim, I might end up killing Reb Meir. What's Klal Yisrael going to be without Reb Meir? But wait, says Borei Olam, Yaakov Avinu, you want to save Reb Meir? I'll help you save Reb Meir. But alongside saving Reb Meir entails saving Beruria, the one that's going to change his mind for the shita that you're after. Banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem. And therefore, right after Hashem helps Yaakov not kill Esav, but be mefayis him with the unbelievable presence and make shalom with Esav. Oh, we saved Reb Meir, but that's still not enough, because Reb Meir still isn't the shita yet. Banim atem l'Hashem until you say Beruria. What's the very next story? Dinah. Dinah goes out to Shechem now. Now! Dinah says, okay, we save Reb Meir. But Reb Meir still doesn't hold yet. Banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem until we save his wife Beruria. Because she's the one that taught him Yitamu chataim in haaretz. And it's dafka chataim velo chotaim. So we got to say Beruria. Says the Gemara in Avodah Zarah Daf Yud Chet. Who was Beruria the daughter of? Reb Chanina ben Tradion. Wow! Wow! Beruria was the daughter of Reb Chanina ben Tradion. Reb Chanina ben Tradion's neshama was stuck in Shechem by Shechem ben Chamor. It was stuck in the embodiment of Shechem. That was Tuesday night's class. Oh boy. Who says this? The Arizal HaKadosh in this week's parasha, in Shar HaPsukim, says this word for word clearly. The Or HaHaim HaKadosh in Parashat Vayechi, Mem Tet Tet, says this clearly. I'm going to read to you the words of Or HaHaim HaKadosh inside. For all those people who have been emailing me off the hook for the last 2 days, wanting to know, where did you get this stuff from? I'd like to tell it to you. I'm reading you the Or HaHaim HaKadosh. Says Or HaHaim, Gam Lif'amim, Be'emsa'ut Dveikut HaNefesh HaGdusha, Be'nefesh HaTum'ah, Le'onsa, Totzi Nefesh Chaya Leminehu, Vehu Sod, this is the secret, Vatidbak Nafsho B'dina Bat Yaakov, Shesha'ava Nefesh Dina Gdosha, Lenefesh Kedusha Mina, Sha'ayta Netuna Toch Shechem. Dina was attracted to this amazing holy soul that was stuck in the Shechem, in the city of Shechem. Amru Chazal, Ki HaNefesh or Chanina ben Tradion, Hu Haya Benefesh Shel Shechem ben Chamor. Ve'haremez lezeh. And what is the remez to this? As we said in Tuesday night's class, Shechem ben Chamor gets up in front of the people of his city to make the announcement, let's accept these people. Let's welcome these people. Ha'anashim ha'ele shleimim hem. They're great people, perfect people, itanu. V'yeshvu ba'aretz, v'yischaru ota. V'ha'aretz, because you know what they want from our land? V'ha'aretz. Hine rachavat yadayim. It is a wide land. No, says the Arizal or Chaim HaKadosh, rachavat yadayim. You know what they want from us? Rachavat, which stands for Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion. Biyadayim. He's here by us. They're here to get him. Let's play along as if we're going to give him up. And then when they come, we'll grab them, bring them to our side, and take advantage of their shalemut. Everybody knew the secret. But now I understand brilliantly. How come the story of Dinah in Shechem comes right after? This is too much. The story of Yaakov and Esav. It's unbelievable. This is not normal. The story of Yaakov and Esav was Yaakov davening to Hashem. I have no problem killing Esav. He's a Rasha. Of course the halacha. Haba lahorgecha, hashkem lahorgo. This guy's coming to kill me. Of course I'll kill him. I have no problem killing Esav. It's not the Esav I'm worried about. It's Shema Yahareg Aherim. I'm scared of killing Aherim, Rabbi Meir, who is destined to come from Esav. And what's Klal Yisrael going to do without Reb Meir? Says Hashem, you're right. So I'll let you win over Esav. Like this he lives, so you'll have Reb Meir. But Reb Meir alone is not enough. Because Reb Meir is still not yet of the Shita that's going to be the saving grace of Klal Yisrael until his wife Beruria comes along. And if Beruria doesn't come along, the job ain't done yet. Because her father is still held captive in the dark side by Shechem ben Chamor. And therefore, right after we saved Reb Meir in the story of Yaakov and Esav, now we got to do the final blow. We got to have Dinah, Vatetze Dinah, Ki ima bita, ma ima yatzanit, av bita yatzanit. The mother went out to grab neshamot. The daughter goes out to grab neshamot. By the way, the mother goes out to grab neshamot, and because she did it l'shem shamayim, she was zochet to 2 more shvatim, Yisachar and Zevulun. So too Dinah went out to grab neshamot, and she did it l'shem shamayim. She was also zochet to 2 extra shvatim, and who is that? Ephraim and Menashe, because her daughter is going to be Osnat. Mamish, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. They get a double portion because of L'Shem Shamayim. They get a double whammy. They get a double zechut by Borei Olam, because Borei Olam knew they did this L'Shem Shamayim. Vatetze Dinah. Dinah went out to get the neshama of Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion, who was embodied in Shechem ben Chamor. Why? Because they knew Rechavat Yadayim. Our land is where Rechavat is hidden. This is where the Yetzer Hara, at the time of the sin of Adam Arishon, when Adam ate the forbidden, and the evil went inside and grabbed away from the master neshama of Adam, these great neshamot of future generations. One of the neshamot that he grabbed away, the Yetzer Hara, was from the Asara Harugei Malchut, the great Reb Chanina ben Tradion. Why did he grab this neshama? Now you know why. Because the Yetzer Hara said, if I get rid of Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion, there'll never be a Beruria. And if there'll never be a Beruria, then Reb Meir, even if he survives, is still holding by the Shita of Rabbi Yehuda. And then there's no one to answer in God's mouth the words of Banim Atem L'Hashem Elokechem, Ben Kach u'Ben Kach. And if that's the case, then God won't bring them Mashiach, won't bring them Hashgacha, won't protect them and watch over them. Because the Tana is, it's only when they're acting good. But if they're not acting good, they're not Banim, they're not deserving of your love, your compassion, your protection. We would never have survived. And because of that, the Yetzer Hara said, I got to get rid of Reb Chanina ben Tradion. Like this, I knock out Beruria. There'll be never anyone in the life of Reb Meir to bring out the Shita that will later on save Klal Yisrael through Galut and bring Mashiach. This is too much. This is too much. So right after the story of Yaakov and Esav saving Reb Meir, but the deed isn't done yet, said Lady Macbeth. I still got to go now and save Reb Chanina ben Tradion, so that there'll be a Beruria who's going to marry Reb Meir. And it's going to tell him the Vart. Yitamu chataim velo chot'im. Reb Meir is going to turn around and say, you're right. Banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem. Ben kach u'ben kach nikraim banim. Rabotai, I think after we hear this, we'll never doubt any detail that we see in life from what Borei Olam is up to. You see the master plan openly working in front of your eyes. You literally see Rechavat Yadayim, God's hands in a very big way, moving around in times we don't understand, in times we put things together. But remember, you're only looking at one portion of the puzzle. Little do you know that Hashem already is working Heshbonot out for hundreds of years to come. Sometimes because of things that happened hundreds of years ago. Like we spoke Tuesday night, that Dinah, the Gilgul of Amtalia Bat Karnevo, in order to get her the Tikkun, the mother of Abraham Avinu. Who knows? Things are going on and we look and we say, Hashem, how could you make that happen? Yaakov Avinu's daughter, to go through such a terrible... Do you know what I'm really doing? One thing we come out with tonight. Seeing in this world is never believing. Believing supersedes what you see. And no matter what you see, it's never what you get. So believe that there's something bigger, better, in control, much deeper than what meets the eye. And that's the emunah that will bring us to Bi'at HaGoel. Thank you for listening, guys.
Stand up all the
Wow.
But you see how they come together? It's not normal. It's Borei Olam. I'll be honest, I don't know how to say it over either. I don't know. This is Borei Olam. This Torah, this Asher B'harbanu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu, something so sweet. Look what He gave us. We should be jumping up and down that we were given a Torah. Such a sweet Torah. I mean, it's too much. It's too much. Abba. Every morning we wake up, we have to remind ourselves how lucky we are.
Yeah.
You know, tomorrow morning when you make that blessing, Shelo Asani Goy, you're going to have a little bit of a bigger kavanah in that. It's like, I lucked out. I'm so lucky. Thank you guys. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for coming. So anyways, Harav, if you wanted to, and I don't know if you wanted the Marakaimis or not, but